it's quite scary for the patients because you put them under, you force them basically into a ward situation. I'm very, very careful at labeling people. People meet people for 1 hour and diagnose bipolar. I never do that.
It's always finding a balance. What I feel is when we are prescribed certain drugs, we look at what it is and we kind of know a little bit like, okay, you prescribe me, let's say lithium, maybe it's bipolar.
And sleep is very hard with bipolar patients. Sometimes their rhythm changes, so they end up like staying up all night and then sleeping during the day. Even for a normal person, I feel we don't know what's going on this earth sometimes.
Have you ever wondered what it's really like to sit across from people navigating bipolarity day after day? Welcome to Bipolar Talk, where we turn our bipolarity into an opportunity. I'm Clément Bessat, bipolar type 2 and founder of Upstage. And today I'm joined by Dr. Annie Abraham, which is a consultant psychiatrist who spent years supporting people through their mental health journey. Everywhere, actually. That's a great story about it. And I'll just let you present yourself, Annie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Annie Abraham. I was born in India and I lived around the world, really. So a lot of childhood experiences that led me into psychiatry. And sometimes I also think that it's just fate as well, like almost like I was born for it. So, we in my family history, we had mental health issues. And back when I was born in the 1970s, there was not much knowledge even in our family members what is going on. So a lot of stigma, as it, was faced by family members. And also, meeting some of the psychiatrists who were treating my family members were quite interesting. And I was only a young child and a young teenager when I first encountered the psychiatrists that were treating. And I found a lot of cruelty, a lot of misconception and misunderstandings where they think it's a curse from God, or there's a voodoo, or there is spirits that are bad, especially in our Indian belief systems. So they don't understand why the person is behaving the way they are, and they think it's a bad spirit inside them. So, I was told stories and also saw a little bit about psychiatrists and also, religious people praying over and trying to, and it was very scary for me as a child. I was very frightened by everything that I've experienced before, in my 10s and 20s of life. And then I went into med school and I was very, very certain I didn't want to be a psychiatrist. That was the one thing I did not want to do. And I was always terrified of it. Then a whole, I also, between the first 20 years of my life, I lived in India, and I've also lived in different parts of India and also lived in Kuwait, which was the Middle Eastern country. And back in 1970s, it wasn't famous at all. It was just a small little dot on the earth. Nobody knew about it. And even when I used to tell people, oh, where it's, they'll ask me, oh, where's Kuwait? And I'll have to point it on the map. It's a little dot there. So I had about 7 years when my parents were working there as economic migrants, which was which is at the moment, like I have patience, even Arab patience, and I'm comfortable because I've lived there. I kind of know the culture and the Muslim world, as they say it. And then I came back after finishing high school in Kuwait and went into med school. Yeah, we had about 3 months in psychiatry, the whole of med school. And when you went in there, you just want to get out of there. That's all. I wasn't interested at all. And then a few years later, when I finished med school, I tried my hand at everything I wanted to. I thought maybe I'll go into women's health and, obs and gynae or just ED. And I even looked into ophthalmology, ENT, all these other specialties. And
Sorry, can you explain what is ED and everything? Because I don't know the acronym.
Sorry. So ED is emergency medicine, working in accident and emergency. Oh, it's called emergency department. And ENT is ear, nose, and throat. So I was trying to do anything else other than, and I was just like far away from this. And then I went to England and passed all my exams, and I was applying for jobs. It's just by chance, like a friend, it's hard, like when you go from India and you're new to England and you're single and you're all by yourself, you don't have any connections. You just want to try and survive. So a friend of mine said, "Oh, there's a job in psychiatry. One of the registrars is off sick or gone away for 3 weeks. Can you cover psychiatry?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And she said, "Oh, just go and do it because it's a job, just you'll get some money for it. So just go and try it out." And that's when I started in January 1999 and did the 3 weeks in psychiatry. And I thought, oh, this is not as scary as I thought it was. It was an inpatient psychiatric ward, mostly for the elderly, people suffering with dementia. And I thought, oh, this is okay. Like it wasn't as scary. I was not as scared as I was. And I started to learn things. And then that doctor who went away for 3 weeks didn't come back. So I ended up doing the job for another 6 months. And while I was there, then I applied for the training program and I got in. It was hard because I was a Indian woman navigating UK without any contacts. I had a few friends here and there, but it was a hard ride. But that I feel like that's why I said the doors just open. I don't know. When I was doing my exams, I was thinking I'm going to fail, but I always passed in the first attempt, which was amazing because I don't know how I did that. And then yes, a lot of experience on getting patients in the community, bringing them, if they're unwell, to bring them into the hospital. And then it's quite scary for the patients because you put them under, you force them basically into a ward situation because they are running erratic. And it's a very stressful job, because they obviously don't think that they're mentally unwell. And then they, and I was hoping, from my experience from my childhood, I just always wanted to be the face of kindness, to try and calm them down and keep them safe. And yeah, I've had loads of stories like that, but I'm not going to talk about any patients today or anything.
I think let's like say it out loud is very important. Any information shared or discussed is intended for general purpose and should not be interpreted as professional or medical advice. And the
Absolutely.
perspective offered represent personal viewpoint that are not intended to replace consultation with qualified professional. So I think it's important now it's said, because what we want to do here at Bipolar Talk is to really to be able to get hope at the end of the day. And
Yes.
because your story is inspiring, and I feel we need this type of story because you've seen how things improve. There's still a lot of improvement to
Absolutely.
do, but so we talked a little bit earlier and you explained me, and it was really interesting about what was psychiatry in the past, because we tend to forget how far we have been going, and even if there's so much things. So can you tell us about the past? And I think it's important for us as Bible to know that, yeah, we improve.
Oh yeah, so there was no knowledge about psychiatry. Like mental health wasn't a thing. Um, uh, Growing up in India, I think depression is normal because everyone is just the struggles of life is so hard. So everyone's depressed. I remember that kind of phase where everyone's a bit anxious and depressed and can't sleep and worrying constantly about their things. So that is kind of a normal living. And then you get bouts of happiness, when something nice happens to you, then you feel happy. But otherwise, the normal course of life is sadness, and that is just accepted as a normal thing. um, and everybody is trying to put food on the table. So when you get a paycheck, you just thinking, okay, this one more week I'll survive. One more week I have money for food. That's how it was. And then when you start, if you did go psychotic or manic or hypomanic, people would just not just ignore you because they wouldn't think that you're unwell. They just think that, okay, today that was a bit bizarre. Nobody got treatment until they're absolutely manic and, running around out of control. And then it gets scary because then it's like they get locked up and it's not good. Um, and I guess many diagnoses have changed. People don't understand the diagnosis anyway. Like, if back in the day you'd say you put a label of what schizophrenia or bipolar, nobody understood what the difference was or what is wrong. And they didn't have internet. They didn't have, you didn't have a psychiatric book to read into, so or try and understand it. What is it? You have to ask someone, what is it? But nobody knew what it is. So they'll just say, oh, you know, the person's lost his mind. That's it. But that's not the case. I realized that you do get better, and if you got treatment early, very early, before if people recognize that something is wrong, because the patient himself can't recognize it. If you recognize it early, you get treated early, you understand it better before your brain's completely switched off and out of control. If you can get some help, I'm very, very careful at labeling people. People meet people for 1 hour and diagnose bipolar. I never do that. I feel I need to see and watch over at least 12 to 18 months, unless there's some clear manic and depressive history, especially young people, like if they are very young, 17, 18, because usually it's around that age when things go bad. And I'm assuming that's just the brain developing pretty fast. So teenage years, the brain's like a million connections a second are forming, and you can feel a bit dark because you're growing, you're physically, your bones and everything's growing, like you're just growing in size, and brain size is growing. So sometimes the brain can malfunction a little bit, and we have to kind of sometimes it's just a few glitches and they're okay, and I'm very careful that I don't label, because that's a label for life. Once you label a person, especially as a psychiatrist, it's a label for life. And that's it. Once you get labeled with certain illnesses or diagnosis, then your future is different. You might not be able to do
Yeah,
certain jobs, Army, Navy,
it's
Air Force, and other things.
that's I think it's something I want to go a little bit deeper because personally, I think when I was diagnosed as bipolar, it actually helped me because I did my first depression. I was 19, and then I got diagnosed. I was 29, and it
Oh
made me
dear.
understood like why I've been through that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I could tell myself I'm not mad, and it's actually
Oh.
so it's really like I think it's a double.
So you got
It
diagnosed when you were 29.
Yeah,
That's a good thing. So I wait till about 29. Say don't label at 17 or 18, because that's so young and you're not 100% sure. And sometimes it'll be some glitch, some drug, or sometimes they do, or some kind of family issue. So I wait till they're a little older, if I can, if safely, if you're safe, not out of control. I just say, okay, let's just watch a little bit before. So when I put the diagnosis, I just say under assessment, maybe bipolar, question mark, under assessment, rather than just labeling them, and then wait till 29. And you're right. When you get a diagnosis, when you know what is wrong, then you feel a bit better. And, now we have medications that we didn't have back in the 1970s. We didn't have anything. We had quite toxic. Most of them were sedatives, like just sedate the brain, sedate them, and then they're just lying there drooling. Now we have newer antipsychotics and mood stabilizers. It's much better quality of life, and you can almost live an almost normal life. It's just that the medications have to be long term. I'm hoping that they will find a cure at some point.
yeah, and it's like I think having and telling the diagnosis is really something important because, as you say, it's like it's always finding a balance.
Yes.
And for what I feel is most of the time for us, when we are prescribed certain drugs, we look at what it is and we kind of know a little bit like, okay, you prescribe me, let's say lithium, and maybe it's bipolar. And the most important is having I like a transparent conversation with your psychiatrist. What I think you're right is to really be able to say, I'm not sure. I'm still assessing you, and I'm still
Yes,
like, maybe it's bipolar, maybe it's not. And that's open conversation. And it's how I felt when I talk with my psychiatrist, it's how I felt like when you have this connection and this trust, it does everything. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
The human connection is so important with the patients. They have to you have to hold the trust of the patient, which is long term is good, but the way hospital psychiatry works is like you just me, like we have a desert because we cannot sometimes in the olden days we could take care of them from when they got unwell and then they come into hospital and then you see the same person in the community, but nowadays it's just very split. So the patient journey is very hard because you'll meet one psychiatrist in the beginning and then you might end up on a locked ward or a ward where you have a different psychiatrist, and then when you come out you have a handover to another psychiatrist. All too much of difficulties, and the aim at that, if you're acutely unwell, the aim is just to keep you safe, that's it, just to make sure that you are alive and you are okay, and having compassionate people to help you through that time is very important, because sometimes patients might be rude or horrible, but the staff, having the compassion, and even for the staff, it's quite exhausting because if you're just working in a hospital and you're just seeing always unwell people and each personality, like when we label bipolar, you also have a personality and you're a unique person, so everybody's bipolar is different. I never see the same bipolar in two people because everybody's personality is different and thoughts are
Ye-
different.
Yeah, I always say I'm bipolar type 2 dot Clement. And I feel everybody's the same. And it's why it's a journey to
That's a journey.
rehabilitation. And it's about building your own system. If you're listening, like, it's like, what do I need? What type of meds? What type of psychiatrist do I need? What's my action plan when something trigger me? What trigger me? How do I talk about it with my family and friend? Like all of this question, it's not like pure science. It's like it's still a bit of art. Can you tell us a little bit, like, because what I love about you, Anne, is like I feel you connect with your patient and you really
Oh
have
yeah.
those honest conversation. And what would you like to tell someone who just got diagnosed or basically don't really know, but maybe it's bipolar? What do you want to tell them?
um It depends on how long things are going on. If it's just an acute thing, if it's just an acute, like one time, I feel we have to don't get upset because we are just fragile. We are human beings are fragile. We have a mind and we can't see the mind. We know for sure, like we do an MRI scan, then there is a brain in there, the brain. But where is the mind? The mind is inside there. We feel that it's in here, but we can't see it. It's not there. and and the mind is each brain is unique. 7 billion, 8 billion people on this earth, each brain is a unique. The structure of the brain is the same when you do an MRI scan, but the mind of each person is different. Well, 0 to 30, it takes 30 years, like 25 to 30 years to grow a fully grown stable brain. So if you're young, 15, 16, a million connections are forming, like a flower blooming, a million connections are forming. And some days you're dark and for no reason you're just a bit dark, and some days you wake up happy for no reason. And very important things is the other things, the external things that are affecting. So if you were brought up in a nice environment with a nice family, the sun is shining and the wind is blowing and the roses are blooming. If your childhood was like that, that's pretty good. But not everybody has that. People are having so much of stress. Even children, are going through a lot of stress with schooling, some kids adapt easily into school. Some people find it very hard to leave their parents and the safe and going into a school full of 30, 40 kids in a classroom. And so those are all micro stresses, I think. And so I feel 0 to 30, we should just be a little careful unless you're 100% sure. Don't label. I just say under assessment. And especially 15 to 25 is the age where bipolar disorder comes. Symptoms come, and usually there's a few prodromal symptoms before it goes full blown. So just educating families to look out, especially if there's a family history, to just watch out, the kids in the family, because if we catch the symptoms earlier and we have an idea of how to manage, it becomes much easier than not closing your eyes and pretending that everything's okay, and then finally you see a full blown. And unfortunately, the person who's experiencing the symptoms rarely can think that, oh, something's wrong with me, because usually, they're just living their life. Their brain is just working, and it's other people who notice. And it's very hard because, if you notice something odd, then to speak out is a hard thing.
Quick break. Can you let us a review on Apple Podcasts or the platform of your choice? It really helps us break the stigma around bipolarity. Let's get back to the episode.
So yeah, there's I just say don't panic, because nowadays it's not like the 1970s and last century where we didn't know a lot of things. Now we can read up, and there is getting help early is the key. Getting medicated early if you are having especially manic and severe depression, then getting medication and getting that medication right, because there's so many different medications on the market, and sometimes it's trial and error till we find what works for them. But not taking anything and just trying to survive is not going to be good, because it's just going to get worse. It's like a broken leg. You can't walk on a broken leg. You can't walk far on a broken leg. So we got to just fix it fast. Try and fix it fast at least. And
Yeah.
I also think the range of illness, like, so some people get the full blown severe manic and severe depression, which is very hard. But sometimes it's not that bad. I always say the minimal medication, because like the medications all have side effects, and when you take it for a long time, like especially medications like lithium and all, when you take it for 15 to 20 years, there is effects on your kidney functions. And so overall health, like any human being, I say overall health, taking care of your body, even if your mind is not great, if you just eat the right food and the right amount, because we need the right amount of sunlight, the right amount, just like growing a plant, we need the right amount of nutrients and the sunlight and the thing. So putting food into your body is, giving yourself nutrition is also good for your mental health, because you have planning a meal and you're eating it in peace is very good. Sleep is very important, to try and get good sleep. And sleep is a habit. You have to say, okay, this is, nighttime. I have to sleep at least from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Don't sit up at night till 2, 3 in the morning. It's not good for you, because we are just an animal, just like any other animal on this earth. And we are diurnal animals. So that means we rise with the sun and we set and we are connected to that nature. So discipline about that is very important. When you get up in the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. before sunrise is a good thing. And even if you sleep in, I say a maximum 7:30, you should be up. Like, sleeping past 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock is not good for your health, not good for your mental health. So up and ready, and having a routine for your life, getting up and having things to do, get up, shower, get ready for the day, go out, and then it's a war out there. So you fight the war during the daytime. And then around whatever happens, you just say, okay, fine, I did my best today. Whether people treat you nicely, whether people are horrible to you, you can't control that. You can only control your own, to a certain extent, your own. And I'm talking not just about patients. I'm also talking about the mental health staff, because going out into work is not an easy job. So for my patients and for my staff, I say, try your best for the day. And then at the end of the day, you have to say, I've done my best today. And please get in a plan for sleep between 10 o'clock to 6 a.m. So at least get by 10 p.m. at night. Sleeping. Sleep is a very funny thing that we're still learning about sleep. Why do we sleep? Why? No matter how clever you are, you're only clever for 16 hours. Even Elon Musk or Trump, everyone has to sleep. Every clever person out there has to sleep. And if you don't get your sleep right, if you don't have that 8 hours, 3-4 days of not sleeping, your brain will become erratic. Any sort of mental strain is not good for your brain. So 10 p.m., 11 p.m. to try and sleep. And sleep is very hard with bipolar patients. Sometimes their rhythm changes, so they end up like staying up all night and then sleeping during the day. So I always tell them to try and at least in a dark room, lie in bed resting with your eyes closed. It's not perfect, but you're teaching your body to say, okay, this is the time, I'm not going to move. And usually it might take a few weeks, but after a while the brain will be like, okay, this person's not going to do anything. I'm going to try, and just keeping that going through the week as well. Like even on the weekends, just 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'm not getting out of bed. I'm lying there. It depends. And, and in this new modern world with the new jobs and where, since we've discovered electricity and lighting, we are doing day and night, which is not good, the day shifts and the night shifts. But that's the kind of modern, we say it's modern world. The modern world doesn't stop at sunset, carries on. And all of that just affects our mood, and exactly the mood is something we can't control.
Yeah, so now you live in Australia, and I feel the way of living here is quite healthy, I would say, at least in Sydney. And what you're explaining is at the end is like medication is help. And so I take medication personally, but
Absolutely.
finding the minimal medication is like really the way to succeed. And
Yes.
I feel it's okay sometimes to, at the beginning, to have a bit more so we can actually find our routine as you just explained.
Yeah.
Find
I
our
mean,
sleep, find our nutrition, and then you can reduce. But you just go on. Sorry, Annie.
I just said, if when you're acutely unwell, you got to take medication as directed by your psychiatrist. And then if things are better, try the maintain. I personally, so I can't speak for other psychiatrists, I try and find the minimum or if this is like your normal mood, I try and find something to keep you around normal because I don't want you going manic or depressed. I want you to be stable. But I always say 50%. 50% is your medication, 60% is your medication. But the other 40% is also how you are taking care of your body. Please put good food. What does the body need? Nutrition, sunlight, and good imaging. Like going out for walks, looking at the clouds, not looking at a screen all day like we're doing now. So please make time for nature, for happiness. You got to plan your happiness because life is not happy. Life is hard, and if you if you focus on all the problems, then you can spend your whole life focusing on the problem and saying that I'm so unlucky or whatever. Have to just say, I'm lucky because I can, for everything, gratitude, trying to just say thank you for everything that you have. And, taking that moment to say, okay, it's not the end of the world. I will survive. And making time for your family. Connections are so important. Making time for your friends, having a meal with one other person. If you can, finding a friend to regularly meet up, because that's the one thing with any of the mental illnesses, like the family sometimes abandon and the friends sometimes abandon, and then you're living an isolated life, which is not good, which is hard for a human being. It's not easy. I guess with like I guess I've lived through the two, the end of the last millennium and the new millennium, you know 30 years on either side. And I'm thinking there was a lot of isolation back then, especially if family abandon you, then you don't know, you have nobody. But nowadays, with social media and stuff, you can still get connected to support groups and I say, don't live, you have to plan your happiness. So make sure that you have some friends who you will meet up to check in with each other, how you're doing. We are never isolated. We are not supposed to live isolated. So just finding peace and joy in life, because it is a journey. It's a unique journey. So you have to sometimes plan your moves a little bit if you can.
Yeah,
Yes, and we were
I really like the concept of gratitude, to really tell yourself like what today is going to be a great day and what you're going to accomplish today, and just to remember also what was good about today, and it's just convincing yourself. And because as you say, you cannot know what the world is going to give you today, but you can try your best.
right. You can once even in your house there's danger. When you step out, there's people. And back in the day, like, we didn't travel a lot, so we all lived in our little villages, and we kind of knew the people in the villages, and we only knew about 20 people, or maybe if you have a big family, you knew just the people in your family and a few friends. But now is like, there's thousands and thousands of people you can connect with. And I don't know if it's a good thing. Maybe I always think that maybe it's not good for us to connect with millions of people and see all the things that we see on TV. And, we were not meant, like, as a human animal, we were just meant to walk and run. That's it, right? We're not supposed to fly. And and so all that, I don't know if all that's good. But in this world, this is what we've got. Many things are good. We're lucky to have all the things. When I get up in the morning, I say thank you for the warm bed that I sleep in, and the indoor toilet, and the hot shower, because those are things just even 50 years ago when I was a child, I just had a cold shower because there was no hot water. And now just saying thank you for that. Yeah, having worked around the world, I've had the opportunity to meet so many different people from so many different cultures. And you just, like, my horizon is broader. Uh, and even in all that, I just say, still, just go out and look at the sky is good for your mental health. Go out and look at a cloud, because we don't look at the cloud. We don't look at the sunrise and the sunset and the moon and the stars. We are all just worried about how much money we are making, and how's our business running. And even in medicine, it's just it's so different. Like, there was a time when the doctor in this one town, there'll be a doctor, and he's taking care of his patients. And now it's a different story. It's like, you have to always chase after success. And I always think, what is success? So it's, you're my first time that I'm coming on a podcast, but otherwise I've always lived a very quiet life. I just have my patients. I just wanted to be that old-fashioned doctor. But anyway, you reached out to me, so, and I just thought I should now put myself, because I've already worked for 30 years. It's good for me to just kind of share my journey with everyone.
Yeah, and I feel you're right. Like, in today's world, we are making things so complex. And at the end of the day, is what you're explaining is like sleep well, eat well, don't
That's it.
isolate, and be in nature, walk around, see some friend. And psychiatry is like, of course, is like medicine can help a lot. But at the end of the day, is like, how do you make yourself happy and how do you
In
do
this
those
moment,
little
how am
things?
I feeling? That's in this moment, how am I feeling? Am I feeling erratic, or am I feeling peaceful? And there's so many reasons to feel erratic, because you switch on TV, and it's always people are getting killed and murdered, and all the bombs are falling everywhere. And there's too many things to focus on, whether it's Ukraine or Gaza or US, or, and you can spend all your time thinking about that, and you forget about that you're sitting here in this little place. And actually, you can't really do a lot for those people. You can go on Twitter and scream. Bad for your mental health, that's it. It's not going to be good for you. I believe in praying, I believe that you can pray for this world. And when I pray, I rarely pray for myself. I say, because, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I'm lucky, and I'm so blessed in many ways. But we have to pray for humanity, and there should be another way of doing this world than the way we are. Even just little things, like before you could go to a bank and you had a little book and you could just write down how much money you have and just one bank account. But now we've got all these multiple things and, Face ID and so many passwords, all micro stresses, I think, and everything, government, trying to travel. It's become easier, but it's more complicated. Even for a normal person, I feel we don't know what's going on this earth sometimes. What is happening?
Yeah. And I think you're right about like everything that's going around. Like we're not, as human, we're meant to understand and to know people around us that we can actually help and actually talk to. And we are not meant to know what's going on like 10,000 kilometers away in a place you
Absolutely.
cannot do anything. You cannot.
Exactly. So what does that do is just increase our anxieties. We are going to feel anxious looking at that and feel it and numb basically because these images, like we are not supposed to have all these images. I was thinking like maybe 10,000 years ago, even if you wanted to look at your face, you'd just see a reflection in water. That's it. You didn't have a mirror or anything. So as humans, we were not meant to do all that. But now, half the problem is there are images of so-called perfect people. And then when you look at the images for a long time, and then when you look in the mirror, you just feel like, oh, my face is not good, or, my body is not good. And it's all things that we have created. We were meant to live a more simpler life. And I can see the difference now. Like I actually think there are some people who are consciously going back to living a simple life. There was a time when people were after bags and shoes and girls, loads and loads of things. And then you go to work, you work 2, 3 jobs, and then you buy more things and more things. And then what? Then are you happy? For a minute, you're happy. And then you take your, designer bag and you keep it there. And I just think, oh my God, like they must have worked, they have to work so hard to save the money to buy that one thing.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the time and we don't have much left. So if you had a magic wand, Annie, what would you change in mental health?
Teaching, especially the next generation of registrars, and I had a lot of psychiatric registrars that I have trained myself, and I say number one is taking care of their own mental health. You know, so focus on because you have to have some battery power inside you to give out to people. So if you're low on your charges, then you can't function. And just more education out there, just to reduce the stigma that it's not a big deal. Like, what is normal? That is the thing. Like we say, everyone. These diagnoses, and just remember that the labels are not you. You get labeled by bipolar, schizophrenia, or ADHD or autistic, and you're just a person with the brain, and a whole bunch of people are deciding that you're this, that, and the other. If I could change, it's teaching compassion and being kind to everyone. Yes, when people are out of control and harming themselves or other people, we have to, and have to put them in a locked place so that they are safe. But just that doesn't define, like, if you did end up in a situation like that when you're young, just remember that those people cared for you, didn't want you to hurt yourself. And then hopefully when you are better, then you don't think of it as a trauma, please, because it was just people trying to help you. Because then that is the biggest trauma that I hear from my patients, is that I got locked up. I got locked up. They locked me up. And I just say to them that it wasn't pleasant, but you're alive. You didn't hurt yourself. So don't feel too bad about it, because it was like a group of people got together to save your life so that you didn't hurt yourself. And it's okay. Like, everyone's a little broken. Even the doctors and the staff, they all, especially the ones who work in mental health, they have actually got stories of some brokenness. That's how they come in. So just don't don't feel bad that if you were in a situation, it's just in the past, and that doesn't mean your future is not bright. You can still go and live a good life, and thank God for good medications. That are newer medications are coming. I'm hoping we can find permanent solutions to this. Yeah, but otherwise, take care of your health. And when I say take care of your health, just number one is also taking care of your body, feeding yourself and filling your mind with good things. And when you see something bad, just remember that that's happening. You have to be clear that it's happening on the other side of the world, and not affect your mental health. Sometimes there are lots of bad stuff happening out there, and our little brain is not meant to think of everybody. We just can't. You'll just get exhausted. So you have to remember to make a space in the middle of the madness of peace.
Thanks a lot, Annie, for sharing. And yeah, probably see you another time.
To learn more about bipolarity, go to our website, upstage.com, HOPESTAGE.com. See you soon.